They are the most well-known extraterrestrials in the world, the Greys. But what if we've misunderstood them all along? These are the beings often linked to abductions, genetic experiments, secret programs, and human trauma. But what if we're not dealing with just a single species? What if there are multiple different types? What if some of them are artificial? And what if some are not hostile, while others very much are? In this video, we break down the most well-known theories about the Greys. We examine what Dr. Michael Salla claims, what the Russian Book of Alien Races describes, and what modern ufology says about the Zetas, hybrids, abductions, and humanity's role in this entire galactic game. Because if even half of what these sources claim is true, then humanity has never been alone. And we may not even be the only intelligent players here. This video is a deep dive into the darkest version of the most famous alien species. It does not claim to hold the ultimate truth, but it asks the question that too many have tried to silence. What if the Greys are really here, and we simply don't understand what they truly want? So buckle up, because the Cosmic Encyclopedia, the Alien Almanac, continues with the Greys. One of the most well-known and frequently mentioned beings in ufology is extraterrestrial life of this type. They are at the center of numerous reports, abductions, and conspiracy theories, while also playing an iconic role in popular culture. But before going into their types, I would start with some general information that researchers, contactees, and abductees have learned about them so far. Their origin is linked to the Zeta Reticuli star system, which is a binary star system in the constellation Reticulum. Reticulum means net. And it is located about 39 light-years from Earth. The association, the first report that they come from there, is connected to the 1961 abduction case of Betty and Barney Hill, during which Betty Hill, under hypnosis, drew a star map, which you can see here as the original drawing, that was later identified by astronomer Marjorie Fish as the Zeta Reticuli system. Based on reports, the small Greys have the following physical characteristics. They are generally between 100 to 150 centimeters tall. They are very thin, with long arms reaching below the knees and fingers longer than human proportions. Their head is large and elongated compared to their body, especially the cranial part. Their eyes are almond-shaped, large relative to the head, and completely black, without pupils. They have small slits where the nose and ears would be, and a tiny, lipless mouth. According to reports, the small Greys are extremely intelligent and logical, but emotionally distant. Or, according to some, they have no emotions at all. They are often described as beings with a collective consciousness. Their communication is telepathic, occurring through direct thought transfer, allowing them to understand each other and humans without words. The technology associated with the small Greys far surpasses the current level of humanity. They are considered responsible for most abductions. People who have experienced such events most often describe them as traumatic, if they remember them, similar to other severe but more widely recognized and accepted psychological traumas. However, those who have experienced this also wish to talk about it with someone they can trust, someone who will not consider them crazy. I know what it feels like. But back to the Greys and the first report stating that they came from Zeta Reticuli. Based on Betty Hill's account, an alien portrait was reconstructed. First a painting was made, and later a sculpture as well. And as we can see, she was likely completely satisfied with the final artistic representations. My issue here is that the being Betty Hill described to the artists does not resemble the typical appearance of the Greys who are said to come from Zeta Reticuli. The species described by Betty and Barney had an iris and pupil, and their skin was not gray or white, but rather had an olive tone. So did a different species come from Zeta Reticuli, or is something else not quite right here? From what I've found, most UFO researchers consider the abduction of Betty and Barney Hill credible.
It is one of the best documented cases, with virtually no discrepancies in repeated interviews. The couple did not add anything to their story over time. They consistently stated the same account and did not exploit their experience. I mean that they did not add fictional elements or try to profit from their ordeal through books or film deals. I also found that the Air Force investigated their case, which occurred late at night between September 19th and 20th, 1961. The first report is dated September 22nd and mentions the 20th as the time of the event. If this case caught the attention of the Air Force, then something likely did happen there. But in that case, is there something wrong with the description of the beings? Or rather with modern ufology's understanding of the Gray's origin? Or do the commonly known-looking ones come from somewhere else? Could Betty and Barney Hill have described the beings incorrectly? Could they both have been mistaken at the same time? What do you think about this discrepancy? Write it in the comments. Perhaps by the end of the video we will find an answer to this question. So, there are multiple types of grays. According to researchers, there is the small gray species, about 120 centimeters tall, the tall gray species, and occasionally abductees have claimed they were taken by the so-called large-nosed grays. In their case, large nose is relative to their own proportions. It is not larger than an average human nose. But reportedly, they are even more diverse than that. First, let's take a look at what modern ufology understands under the Zeta species.
According to the book on extraterrestrial species, the Zetas come to us from a planet in the constellation Reticulum. Due to their appearance, they are often confused with other gray subspecies, species, or types, such as the Solipsi Rai or the Maitre. According to the book, they are allies of the Anunnaki and cooperate with them on multiple planets. Here on Earth, they represent them and are said to send information about humanity to the Anunnaki 25 times a year. It also mentions that they were the ones who gave Egypt its pharaohs. The most well-known was Akhenaten, who was removed from power by the reptilians. According to the book, the first record of Zeta activity on Earth dates back to 4000 BC, and they were the first hybrids created by the Anunnaki. They are still present on Earth in their original form, as the Anunnaki created them, according to the book, and also in a Zeta subspecies form. According to the book, their location on Earth is unknown. In Dr. Salla's report, the small gray species referred to as the Zetas come from Zeta Reticuli, as well as from other planets in the Orion constellation. He also references Colonel Philip Corso, who was the head of the Army's Research and Development Department and later became a whistleblower. In one of his well-known testimonies, he claimed that he saw the body of a small gray being that had crashed near Roswell in 1947. The description of the small grays that we associate with the Zetas today comes from him. According to Colonel Corso, the Greys were involved in a treaty signed with President Eisenhower. The colonel also mentions the aliens' gray-human hybridization and human cloning programs. In modern ufology, similar descriptions of this species can be found. All three sources state that this is a negative species from the perspective of humanity, responsible for mass traumatization, abductions, genetic and consciousness manipulation, and the programming and monitoring of certain individuals' minds. The Solipsi Rai Greys are mentioned only in the book. Dr. Salla's report does not refer to them. The book describes them as a positive species, or subspecies, with a level of development similar to ours. I assume this refers to technological development. They do not have colonies. Instead, they focus on their own development and on studying other planets and species. The book states that they come from the constellation Cygnus. They possess several very powerful weapons, which they use to keep nearby offensive species or groups at a distance. They have said that we will have multiple, specifically 645 according to the book, opportunities to save ourselves and our planet, which would guarantee the future of our species. I don't know how they know this or where this number comes from. At the end of the page, it states that they are the Solipsi Rai, but we call them Greys.
I placed them second in the video because this is the species I have some indirect connection to. Can they manipulate? Yes, it's possible. However, in my opinion, not in a negative way, or at least we don't perceive it that way. Could their manipulation have negative long-term effects? It's unknown. We don't see the dangers. How do we know they belong to the Solipsi Rai species? Because they said so. Could they be lying? Of course, yes. But I'd rather not even think about that. Dr. Salla's report does not mention the Solipsi Rai, unless possibly under the section about the small grays. Modern ufology also does not refer to them by this name, or it likewise categorizes them under the small grays.
The gray subspecies, or species called El-manouk, according to the book, comes to us from the constellation Grus. They are members of the Council of Five, which is considered a positive group from the perspective of humanity. According to the book, the Council of Five last held a meeting here on Earth in August 2013. The topic of discussion was that, in their view, too many species have visited planet Earth over the past 500 years. This is all that is stated in the book. As for why it might be problematic that too many aliens visit Earth, I assume they may also have laws or rules stating that they must not interfere in the life of any species, neither radically nor even slightly. They must allow natural development to unfold. For us, this concept mostly appears in science fiction books and films, but it is certainly an ethical idea. Dr. Salla's report does not mention this species by name. It also does not appear in modern ufology, unless it corresponds to the so-called large-nosed gray species, since, if the depiction can be trusted, their nose is not just two small slits. But this is only speculation. The book does not provide much information about them either, focusing more on the council itself. However, since they are members, they can also be considered a positive species from the perspective of humanity. According to the book, they come to us from the constellation Camelopardalis. According to the text, they were unable to leave their planet from approximately 1300 to 1900 in our calendar due to another alien species. It is written that they are a very violent and predatory species. They are allies of the Maitre species. Their average height is about 160 centimeters. They were last seen on Earth in August 2001. This species is not mentioned by name in Dr. Salla's report or in modern ufology. The book claims that they have two home planets. Many alien species regard them as a parasitic species. They openly carry out abductions. Their goal is to colonize Earth, which they have not yet done because several extraterrestrial groups have prevented them from doing so. They are hermaphroditic, meaning they possess both sexes at once. In short, there are no male or female individuals among them. Their average lifespan is 120 Earth years. So far, they have colonized at least 26 planets. According to the book, they have abducted a large number of humans, specifically 5,000 men. They are allies of the previously mentioned Mazarek species. Their last sighting on Earth occurred in the city of Nome, Alaska. That is what the book states. This reminded me of the 2009 film The Fourth Kind, which is based on alleged real events. Dr. Salla's report does not mention this species by name, nor does modern ufology. However, the description of a sexless gray species is quite common. Based on the book, this is clearly a negative species from the perspective of humanity. According to the book, it is generally accepted that the Emerther species is the most important member of the Council of Five, and not only that, but also of all known species. They are one of the founding species of the Council of Five. They are related to the previously mentioned Solipsi Rai species, but they are a much older lineage and far more advanced. They reportedly met U.S. President Eisenhower on 3 separate occasions. They also met twice with 2 high-ranking leaders from the former Soviet Union. They attempted to meet President Richard Nixon as well, but this ultimately failed, as the president refused the meeting, citing that it could be dangerous since they are able to read minds and could potentially access national security secrets. That is what the book states. I looked into who could have been high-ranking Soviet leaders during Richard Nixon's presidency that the Emerthers might have met. If extraterrestrial contact had taken place, such decisions would have been made within a very limited and secret circle, as both Richard Nixon and the Soviet leaders listed below held office during the Cold War. Nixon served as President of the United States from January 20, 1969 to August 9, 1974. During this time, 3 Soviet leaders can be identified who could have had decision-making authority, even in the case of extraterrestrial contact. The first was Leonid Ilyich Brezhnev, 1964 to 1982, First Secretary and later General Secretary of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. He was the de facto leader of the Soviet Union and had direct access to the most important military and intelligence information. The second was Alexei Nikolaevich Kosygin, who served as chairman of the Council of Ministers of the Soviet Union from 1964 to 1980. He was a key figure in economic and technological matters. Although Brezhnev was the main decision-maker, Kosygin also participated in strategic decisions, especially in technological cooperation and foreign policy. And finally, Yuri Vladimirovich Andropov, who led the KGB from 1967 to 1982 before becoming General Secretary. He was the head of Soviet intelligence, someone who wanted to know everything, and generally did. He would have been responsible for gathering and classifying information, and possibly even for securing the participants and location of any initial contact. No information has ever leaked about this alleged contact. However, according to a Russian conspiracy theory, under the direction of Yuri Andropov, then head of the KGB, Operation Orion Rhombus was launched, which investigated ancient and extraterrestrial civilizations. According to allegedly leaked documents, Earth's history was characterized by ancient supernova explosions, silicon-based life forms, massive ancient plants, and gigantic humanoid beings. The text also speculates about the Moon, Venus, and the destruction of Atlantis, linking them to the so-called Icarus planet, reptilians, and the Anunnaki. The KGB's secret Orion Rhombus project presents an alternative cosmological and Earth history narrative, including references to tens of meters tall, etheric angelic beings, as well as the inner Earth world, Agartha. The text traces the development of humanity through mythical beings, planetary destruction, and extraterrestrial genetic interventions. Although this is a conspiracy theory originating in Russia, it may hint at something regarding one of the Soviet leaders and the alleged meeting with the Emerthers. It suggests that Soviet leadership also began to take interest in theories outside mainstream science, if this conspiracy theory is true. The name Emerther does not appear in Dr. Salla's report. However, it does appear in modern ufology. From the perspective of humanity, the Emerther is considered a positive species in modern ufology as well. This being is known as Skinny Bob, named after a video that was allegedly leaked online in 2011 by a user called Ivan0135, which you can see here as I speak. In 2011, there were already programs capable of creating a short video like this. According to rumors, it originated from a KGB leak, and in the Soviet origin version of the story, Bob was a pilot captured by the Soviets, who came from the Zeta Reticuli star system. However, Ivan0135 states at the beginning of the videos that it was part of a secret U.S. government program involving contact with extraterrestrial beings. If you search online, you will encounter both versions regarding the video. Some claim it is real, while others consider it staged or a sophisticated fake. CGI experts have also commented in a Daily Star article, and, as expected, they could not definitively determine the truth. According to their opinion, if it is fake, it was expensive and required incredible expertise. A rough estimate suggests the short video could have cost around $250,000 to produce. An interesting detail is that the movement appears extremely natural, especially the blinking and subtle head movements. At the beginning of the video, it even looks as if it slightly raises its eyebrow, if it had one. And before 2011, when the video appeared online, this would allegedly have been very difficult to achieve even with CGI. The reflections in the eyes, the shadows, and the aging effect of the video are also executed very well. The official stance on the video is that there is no credible source verifying its authenticity, and the creator, as well as any person possibly appearing in it wearing a mask, remains unknown. Skeptics believe it is most likely an artistic CGI project or part of a marketing campaign, although no subsequent advertising or brand has been linked to it. However, signs of digital post-processing can be found. For example, film damage effects, visible here, as well as timing effects that were added later, indicating post-production manipulation. The logo seen at the beginning of the video reportedly appeared in a 1998 documentary titled The KGB Secret UFO Files. However, this does not necessarily mean that the same logo could not appear in other videos or films. Ivan's other videos have also been analyzed multiple times in various ways: stabilizing camera shake, zooming into details, identifying buildings used as scale references for a floating object, which skeptics claim was a blimp. The appearance and positioning of all the beings in his videos, as well as the movement of shadows, have been thoroughly examined. Observers also noticed that the crashed spacecraft in the footage still appears to be smoking, along with many other small details. Experts analyzing the video remain divided on its authenticity. Therefore, it cannot be definitively stated whether the footage is real or a fake. In my opinion, it is real. What do you think? There are many more gray species in the book. However, this diversity explains why some people describe or depict the grays slightly differently. It could also explain why some say they have 4 fingers, while others say 5, or why their skin color differs, or why some have pupils or irises. This may be due to evolution in different environments, or related to their hybridization programs. But let's do a small thought experiment again. Imagine that we, humans, are capable of traveling to other planets where intelligent life exists. First, we send a crew composed of white, Caucasian-type humans. Then, on a second occasion, we send a crew consisting only of people of African origin. Finally, we send a crew made up entirely of Asians. The visited species might assume, based on these differences, that these are 3 separate groups or subspecies, yet all humanoid. But we know they are all human. Perhaps it could be the same with them. What other ideas exist about them in modern ufology? As the book states, they are allies of the Anunnaki, while another theory claims that the Anunnaki created the Zetas to serve them as bio-robots. Could they have been the legendary Ijiji, or was that another species? According to this theory, they were created from a humanoid species, which is why they resemble a human fetus. They are not considered a fully developed species, which is why they appear emotionless and robotic. Another completely different theory suggests that they are a fully developed species, capable not only of technological advancement, but also spiritual evolution. I personally know a contact who is in communication with them, and since a positive breakthrough occurred in that contact, they have developed significantly, both spiritually and emotionally. I should add that I knew this person before their transformation, and still, there are so many variations and experiences connected to them. Which theory, which experience could be true? Humans tend to look for a single, definitive answer when dealing with such topics. But what if all of them are true? I'll explain. I emphasize that this is my subjective opinion, and it may not be the truth. This is only speculation on my part. Perhaps the Zetas originally evolved somewhere in the Zeta Reticuli system. Once they reached a sufficient level of technological advancement, they spread out and terraformed nearby suitable planets according to their needs. Due to the different planetary conditions, they began to evolve physically in different ways from their original form. The initial differences appeared. Then they encountered other species, whose genetic material they used to improve their own species. A popular idea was that they were in trouble. They could not reproduce. They only cloned themselves, which led to deformities, and therefore they needed the genetic material of other species to restore their reproductive ability. Another popular theory is that they want to create hybrids that look like us but are mentally connected to them, thus achieving a silent takeover. Or perhaps strategic genetic manipulation took place, or is still taking place. This is also just my speculation. It would mean that they are trying to enhance their physically weaker bodies compared to other extraterrestrial species, since there may be aggressive, invasive species out there as well, not only peaceful ones. But again, this is just a theory. And of course, it is not impossible that after leaving their home planet in a diaspora-like manner and starting their own hybridization programs, other species found them and turned them into slaves as well, through their own hybrid subspecies. During this time, the original species and its earliest types may have also undergone spiritual development. So this is a speculative option from my side, one that does not completely rule out any theory or contact claim, and does not elevate any single theory as the only truth. Still, it seems logical to me. What do you think about this? And what does modern ufology say beyond what was mentioned at the beginning of the video? That there are small grays, tall grays, and large-nosed grays. I emphasize that this is the latest version of their theory regarding the grays. According to them, gray extraterrestrials also originate from the Zeta star system. As far as they know, there are 5 different types. Type 1. The well-known EBE, engineered biological entity. These grays were modified by species considered negative from humanity's perspective, such as reptilian beings, to serve them. They are often the ones who carry out painful experiments on humans. They are characterized by large, rounded heads, huge black eyes, and a height of about 90 to 120 centimeters. They are emotionless and controlled from above. Type 2. Zeta Reticulans. The original gray species. Fragile, 90 to 120 centimeters tall. They have ash-gray skin, high technological affinity, and are easily abducted. In the past, during wars between reptilians and Zeta Reticulans, many were enslaved and genetically modified into the emotionless drones we know today. Type 3. Zeta Blues. Around 9000 BC, during exhausting wars, Pleiadian motherships arrived at Zeta Reticuli to stop the reptilians from harvesting these fragile beings. The injured greys were genetically enhanced by the Pleiadians and then returned to their home. As a result, their skin turned bluish. They became capable of resisting further enslavement attempts, gained healing abilities, and developed significant psychic powers. Type 4. Zeta Ur. The most unusual among the gray types. They are about 120 to 135 centimeters tall and are considered travelers and scientists. They largely retained their original nature but established colonies around stars such as our Sun. They altered their skin to a brown or light brown tone and genetically modified themselves to be easily recognizable as collectors and scientists. They are highly respected by the Galactic Council and the Galactic Scientific Council, and their knowledge is utilized in certain situations. Type 5. Zeta Blue Grays. This type was given the opportunity to be free. However, freedom does not mean the same thing to them as it does to us. Most grays fear freedom and prefer to exist in groups of 4 to 5 individuals. They have a collective consciousness, like bees. Previously, it was completely unimaginable for them to leave the collective until the Pleiadians appeared to help them. They are extremely intelligent. They assist friendly, higher-level species in interacting with humans because they understand us. These pieces of information come from someone named David Wallace. What do you think? Which version, or combination of versions, seems most plausible regarding the Greys? The account in the Russian Book of Alien Races? The descriptions in Dr. Salla's report?
My own speculation? Or the conclusions of modern ufology? Or a mixture of these? And perhaps the most important question, what is humanity's role in this intergalactic drama? Since this video has become very long, you will encounter the reptilians in another part. I have gathered the available information about the Greys for you. As for what the truth might be, that decision is up to you.
Thank you for watching. Please support my work with a like and a subscription.